Hello, everyone, and welcome to this ItaliaPass Ready for Rome orientation webinar. My name is Shelly Ruel, and I am the community manager at ItaliaPass. And I'm joined today by Sofia Bragaglia, as she is the ItaliaPass Italy Experience Specialist. And together we have lots of years of combined experience living in Italy. I've lived in Rome for 25 years, and Sofia is originally from Italy. So today we want to share with you our tips and information about traveling here in Italy, and in particular in the city of Rome. And we will have lots of time at the end to answer your specific questions in a Q&A session. So let's get started. And before I actually get into the informational part of our webinar, I wanted to just go over what is ItaliaPass, because many of you may have got invited to this webinar because you purchased tickets with ItaliaRail. And that's one of our partner brands. So there's a whole family of brands, the Italia brands. There's rail, tours, drive, hotels. And we've been working with millions of tourists exploring Italy since 1987. And our CEO wanted to find a way to bring all these brands together to help our customers have the best trip to Italy ever. So that's why we created Italia Pass. And what it is it's a travel benefits pass. And there's two tiers. One is Viva and the other is Primo. So throughout today's presentation, we'll be referencing Italia Pass benefits to see if that's something that you would enjoy during your trip. And you can ask us any questions about that. So, what are we going to cover today? This is a little bullet list of the main points that we're going to share information with you today about. The first thing we're going to talk about is when you arrive at FCO, which is the code for the airport in Rome. It's Fiumicino, also known as Leonardo da Vinci, same airport, and how to get into the city from the airport, because it's about a half an hour outside of the city. And then we'll tell you about the perk of our lounge if you're traveling through Rome Termini train station, how you can get access to our lounge. I'll tell you about how to get around Rome on public transport, and also some info about restaurants and how you can avoid the most common tourist traps. We'll tell you some information about how to get complimentary access and tours to some of the most famous sites. And then I will wrap it up with a couple of my favorite local tips. And then at the very end, we will hold a live Q&A for 15 minutes. The way that you'll be able to access that is through the chat functionality. There's a Q&A box, and you can type at any time, even throughout this presentation, type in your questions, and we'll get to those live at the very end. And you will be getting a recording of this. So if we're going too fast, or if you want to go over something again, don't worry. You're going to get a recording in your email. You'll get the link to that. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to my colleague, Sofia, and she's going to tell you about how to get into the city once you arrive.
Thank you, Shelley. Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining us today. Yeah, we can get started. So now you've landed at FCO. As Shelley mentioned, that's the main airport in Rome. And from here, you'll have a few options to get to the center of Rome. As you see on the slide, they're all indicated in the terminal. So the first option is the train. And there are two types of trains that you can take. The first one is called Leonardo Express. It's a direct train, a nonstop train that goes directly to Roma Termini, which is the main station, the main train station in Rome. It costs around $17 on ItaliaRail, and it's usually, I would say, probably the most popular option for people who decide to travel by train. It's very convenient, very fast. And there's also a second type of train that we have that's just, they're both considered regionals, but the second type is a more generic regional, let's say. And there are trains that travel to smaller stations in Rome, specifically Trastevere and Ostiense. And those are a little cheaper. They're around $10 on ItaliaRail. As I mentioned, they're both considered regionals. So if you decide to travel by train, it would really depend on where in the city you're trying to get to. Both options work perfectly depending on where you're trying to go. We generally get a lot of questions on whether or not you should book these tickets for these trains in advance. And I would say yes. It's not compulsory, but I would recommend just getting them before your arrival, especially because if you're traveling soon, we're currently in high season, so the queues can get very long, the servers get overwhelmed. So we just make sure that you secure a spot at the best departure time for you before you actually get to Rome. Just make sure to calculate that time specifically because Leonardo Express tickets are time specific, so you'll want to have. I believe there's only a 90-minute window for those tickets, so just make sure to get the right time. And you might ask, what does that time look like? So I would say I would recommend booking a time that's at least an hour and a half after your scheduled arrival time for the train out of FCO, out of the airport. And definitely no trains out of, let's say, Roma Termini. If you're getting into Rome and then you decide to go somewhere else, no trains out of the center of the city within 3 hours of arrival. Just because, sometimes there can be unexpected delays, luggage issues at the airport. There's just many things that can happen. So it's best to just have a bit of extra time so you can navigate, find your way. Termini is kind of a big station, so I would say just make sure you have that window of time. Again, 2 hours, 1 hour and a half to 2 hours out of the airport and 3 hours out of Roma Termini. So yeah, that's it for trains. As you see, there's other options that you have as well. There are taxis that are right outside the terminal that you can take. They're fairly handy. They have a fixed rate of 55 euros. So if you're just trying to get one of those, they're fairly easy to get. Or there's a shuttle bus, or we offer private transfers. We have drivers that we partner with that can take you anywhere within the city of Rome. So whether you're trying to get to your accommodation, your hotel, or if you're trying to get to Termini, no matter where you're trying to get to in the city, we can help you with that. So if you're interested, you can find the transfers as an item on the Italia Tours website. Or if you'd like to know more, or if you need help setting it up, feel free to reach out to us directly and we'll be happy to help. Next up, we have, should I rent a car? Now, this is a question that we get very often. I would say there's no universal answer of a yes or no, but I will give you some tips to help you decide. I would say a good rule to make a final decision will be, where will you be in Italy? So if you know that you're going to be exploring some remote areas in the country, for example, some popular destinations are the Tuscan countryside or the Amalfi Coast. In that case, I would say yes, definitely think about renting a car, just because those areas can be harder to navigate with public transport. There's fewer options, maybe tricky roads. So in those cases, having a car can be handy. However, if you know that you're only going to be staying in, the major cities like Florence, Rome, Milan, I would not recommend getting a car, just because the easiest way to navigate in between these cities is by train. And once you're within the city, it's very easy to get around either on foot or there's, usually plenty of buses, trams, streetcars. Um, and on top of that, there are very strict car traffic rules for people who drive. So it can just get tricky getting a permit to enter certain areas, finding parking. So yeah, I would not recommend. It's an experience that Italians themselves try to avoid. So if you're just going to be visiting and again staying in the heart of the cities, I think you will be fine even without a car. Regardless, if you do decide to rent a car, you can do so on our platform Italia Drive, and you would benefit from a discount as an Italia Pass member. So definitely make sure to check that out. Another perk of being a member is access to our Italia Pass Lounge, which you see here on the slide. This is a lounge that's located inside Roma Termini station. That's the station I mentioned earlier, the main train one in Rome. And yeah, it's just a good spot to hang out if you have some free time before boarding a train or if you're waiting for your hotel check-in time. You can come visit us, come relax. We have free Wi-Fi, espresso, refreshments. We also offer free luggage storage. So if you have any bags that you need to leave with us for a few hours, you can drop them off and pick them up pretty much anytime during opening hours. We have some lounge hosts also that can answer any questions if you need any help navigating Rome or if you have questions about your train tickets. They're there to help. They're lovely. So, yeah, all we need to do is, all you will need to do for this visit is book it beforehand, just so we know that you will be coming to visit us, and especially if you're planning on leaving some bags. We will need the reservation, but that's pretty much it. And now I'll hand it over to Shelley for some information on public transport within the city.
Okay, thanks. So here we are in Rome, and while Rome is a very walkable city, you may also, especially now that it's really hot, because it's the middle of the summer now, so hot temperatures, you might want to hop on a bus. Not that they'll be necessarily cooler, although a lot of them have air conditioning now, luckily, but because it might be easier just to kind of get from place to place without having to walk under the hot sun. So our public transport is called ATTAC. That's the company name. And the methods of transport that we have are primarily buses. As you see here, you'll have beautiful scenery like driving right by the Colosseum. We also have a subway system. It's very simple. It's a very simple system that only has two lines, A line and B line, and they only cross at one station. So if you need to change from A to B or vice versa, you only change at Termini Station, which we've already mentioned. That's the main train station. So you're definitely going to be in Termini at one point or another in your time in Rome. And then there's trams. You probably won't encounter those too much. However, there is one at Piazza Venezia that you may use. Otherwise, they're kind of on peripheral areas of the city, not necessarily in the historic center where you're probably going to be. Now, the tickets. So tickets are actually quite reasonable in terms of how much they cost compared to other large European cities. They cost €1 and 50 cents. And the way they work is they are unlimited rides for 100 minutes. From the time that you first board whatever method of transport and validate your ticket, you have 100 minutes to ride any of the methods, except there's one exception. You only get one subway ride, one metro. It's called metro because the actual name is Metropolitana. You have one ride. So that means when you enter the subway station, you're going to go through a turnstile. You'll show your ticket, you'll go through a turnstile. You can ride the subway wherever you need to go. You can change lines. The thing is that once you exit the subway station, that ticket is no longer valid for a subway ride. So that even counts if you actually make a mistake and you board like the wrong side or the wrong direction and you have to exit the station for whatever reason, you would have to purchase another ticket to use the subway. However, that 100 minutes is still good for the buses and the trams, despite the fact that it's only just one subway ride. Now, how do you get a ticket? Luckily, Rome has modernized quite a bit, especially given that we had the Jubilee year last year. So you're going to encounter mainly you can do tap and go, which if you're not familiar with tap and go as a system for ticketing, it uses a contactless payment method. So if you use your phone to pay for items, like with a credit card that's on your smartphone, you can just tap that card on the readers. Or you can use your credit or debit card that has a contactless chip and you just tap your card on the reader. So the way it works in Rome on the buses, no one checks your ticket. You do not have contact with the driver. You do not have to show the driver anything. It's kind of an honor system. You're going to board the bus either in the front or the back door. The middle doors are for going out, although Romans don't always obey the rules, so don't worry. You don't have to be so precise because the Romans certainly will not be. But you're going to see boxes. There's usually two or three on the bus, a little electronic box. Take your payment card and tap. It's going to light up green. And what that means is from that moment on, you have 100 minutes and the card is your ticket. So the way it works is if an inspector randomly boards the bus, which is what happens, it's not too frequent, especially during high season. These buses are really crowded. It's kind of hit or miss, but you want to have that card ready because if you get asked to show your ticket, you're just going to show your card. You're just going to show whatever payment method you used. Now, be aware that you cannot use the same card for multiple riders. So like for example, in New York, I think on the subway system there, you can tap for like multiple riders with the same card. In Rome, every rider needs their own payment method. So just keep that in mind because everyone needs to show their own individual payment method / ticket. In the subways, it's not an issue about inspectors because to board the subway, you actually do have to pass through a turnstile. So it's a little different than the buses. Trams work like the buses. They have little boxes that you tap and no one checks unless it has random inspections. All right, so that's the contactless ticket, which is probably your best bet. However, if you want to have a physical ticket, it's called biglietto if you want to try out your Italian. You can purchase those at machines in the subway stations, or at the tabaqueria, which are the tobacconist, and you can identify those because they're the shops that have the little T symbol over the door, like the letter T. It'll be like a black and white sign. Or newsstands. There's newsstands all throughout the city, and you can ask for a biglietto. Actually, you're probably going to want to ask for two because that way you have the round trip. And those also are, they just tap. Or some, you might insert them into the box. But if you have any trouble, Romans are actually quite helpful. They will like volunteer to help you. Don't worry. They're generally very warm and friendly. So this is the last thing I want to tell you about public transport, Bus 64, because it's a really helpful route for visitors. Because Bus 64 runs from the main train station, which we've talked about, Termini, and it goes all across the historic center all the way over to the Vatican. So it's going to hit most of your main tourist points. One thing to keep in mind is that because it's high season, it's going to be quite crowded. And whenever you're in a crowded area, that is a prime target for pickpockets. Now, there's a lot of stuff on social media that kind of scares people. Oh, you're definitely going to get pickpocketed in Rome. No, I have been in Rome for, like I said, 25 years, and knock on wood, I have not been pickpocketed once. So it's a question of are you an easy target or no? And it's really easy for you to not be a target because all you have to do is make it look like you know where you're going and you have your belongings in check. So if you have a bag, put it like a crossbody bag. Keep your hand on your bag. Men, if you have a wallet, like don't leave your wallet in your back pocket. Just make it look like you are aware of your surroundings. And there are plenty of distracted tourists. They will beeline right to them. And it's not dangerous. Like Rome is not a violent, dangerous city at all. Petty crime here is an issue just as much as it would be in any other large major European city. So don't worry, you're going to be fine. Just look like you know what you're doing. Even if you don't, fake it till you make it and you will be just fine. Just be aware of your belongings and don't leave valuables hanging out like you would anywhere in any big city. All right, now let's go on to some really fun stuff talking about all the delicious food you're going to eat here in Rome. So let's talk about restaurants first. The reason that I have those bullet points with the times of lunch and dinner is because sometimes the times that we eat out here are different than, say, for example, typical North American dining times. They're a little bit later. So we usually start lunch around 1 or 1:30. Dinner's generally around 8 or 8:30. And the reason I tell you that is because if you want to eat earlier, it doesn't mean you're not going to find a restaurant that's open. You will. There's plenty of places open all day long. However, if you want to go to a really local place, their kitchen may not be open before then. So just plan accordingly. You know, maybe you can have a snack. I'm going to tell you about a nice pre-dinner snack called an aperitivo a little bit later on. The reason I wrote check, which by the way, if you want to practice your Italian, is called il conto. The reason I wrote check is because it's a little different here culturally, the way that works. So, for example, in the United States where I'm from, oftentimes the wait staff or the waiter, whoever you have, will like bring your food to the table and then leave the check and say, I'll take that whenever you're ready. It's the opposite here. They will not generally ever bring your check unless you specifically ask. And the reason for that is because they want you to not feel rushed. Culturally in Italy, going out to eat with friends and family is quality time, and they do not want you to feel like you're being rushed out. They want you to feel relaxed and like you can enjoy your time at the table. Food is very important here culturally. It's an important moment to spend time with your friends and family. So, if you're sitting there going, gosh, the service is slow, why are they not bringing my check? Just ask. They'll be happy to bring it. They're actually trying to respect you and your time with your loved ones. So that's a little cultural insider tip. Speaking of tips, no pun intended, tipping. So we don't tip here. Generally speaking, wait staff earns a regular salary. They do not work for tips. We certainly would never leave a 20% tip. If you really liked your service as a courtesy, you might want to leave €1 per person, something like that. But I tell you this because if you end up, hopefully you won't, but if you end up in a very touristy place where they try to take advantage of Americans for, especially for example, where they know there's a big tipping culture, they might try to make you feel like you're expected to leave a tip. You're not. Locals generally don't. So do not feel obligated in any way. And certainly we wouldn't leave a 20% tip. It's just not in the culture. It just is not in the culture here. Okay, let's talk about gelato. So gelato, it's wonderful and it's summer. You're gonna love it. two little tourist trap tips to look out for. So if you see gelato, and you will downtown, you're going to see gelato like the one in this photo where it's like these just mounds of gelato coming up like mountains over the top of the tubs. It's not that it's going to be terrible gelato. I mean, all gelato is probably pretty decent, but it's kind of a trick that they use to whip a lot of air and make it look really impressive. Whereas very authentic gelato would never have like, it would never be like that. It would never come necessarily too much above the top of the tub. So it's kind of a tip off. Also, if you see super bright colors, that's also a red flag because it shows they're using artificial coloring, which natural gelato wouldn't have. Couple of quick tips about gelato. There's fruit flavors and like the cream and chocolate flavors. We buy gelato with a small cone is two flavors. So just know that you can mix and match starting with two different flavors. It's generally two, three, or four. Four would be like a meal, but you can get a cone or a cup, and that's how it works. So just know that you can mix and match because that's kind of fun and not necessarily how we do it necessarily in the States, for example, where I'm from. Last thing about restaurants. So if you see, these are kind of tourist trap things. If you see a restaurant where there's pictures on the menu, you can know for sure that's not for Romans because you can imagine Romans don't need pictures to know what their dishes look like. They already know. Or if there's like what I call promoters, like people standing out in front of the restaurant and like trying to usher you inside, it's a tourist trap. And by that, I mean, is it going to be terrible food? Probably not. I mean, we're in Italy after all. However, it's not where locals would go. And if you're in Rome, do as the Romans do. So I'm going to send you a list of recommendations, just kind of places that are local that I like. It's not sponsored or anything. It's literally just places that I know and like. So there's going to be a few in there that you can explore. And you will get that as an email after this presentation. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to pass it back over to Sophia talking about local food and it's an event you can participate in.
Thank you, Shelley. Yeah, next up we have one of our latest member benefits from ItaliaPass, which is Italia Dine. The idea behind this experience is to get fellow travelers around the dinner table for a Roman family-style feast. And it's, I would say, one of our most popular ItaliaPass experiences ever since it's been launched. We received a ton of great reviews. People love it. We're adding more sittings each week. So I would definitely recommend checking it out. We have our host that usually runs quote unquote the dinner. They're a passionate local who can answer any questions you might have about any of the food that you'll find. And believe me, the food there will be amazing. It's amazing in all of Italy, but I would say Rome has a specific extra something when it comes to food. So yeah, it's completely free for Italia Pass Primo holders, but the experience, the Roman dinner party, can also be booked if you're not a member with Primo or Viva. It's available on Italia Tours. I believe on there it's called Pass the Pasta. So it's only $49, and yeah, it can be booked even if you have a large travel party. If some of the travelers are members and some are not, that's completely fine. And yeah, you can find it on the website, or I believe it does get you'll get some emails if you're an ItaliaPass member. You'll get some emails where we mention this specific experience, or if you just cannot find it, or if you have more questions. As I said before, just feel free to reach out to us. The email for ItaliaPass is support@italiapass.com. So any questions you might have, anything, feel free to reach out. We're always happy to help. Now, for all the exciting sights that you'll get to see during your stay in Rome. Of course, there's a lot everywhere you turn, everywhere you look in Rome, there's something to see. But we do have some highlights that you can access as an ItaliaPass member. One of them, the first one, would be the Colosseum, of course, very iconic. Our Primo members get one free guided tour of the Colosseum, which features exclusive access to the arena floor through the Gladiators Gate. Viva members can get a discount, so depending on which type of membership you have, you can also have access to this tour. But for Primo members, it is entirely free. Um, We also offer guided tours of the Vatican museums, as you see here on the slide. We have walking tours of the rest of Rome. Usually, the walking tours include the highlights of the heart of the city, such as Piazza Navona, the Spanish Steps, the Trevi Fountain, of course. And if you're interested in all three experiences, these ones that I've just mentioned, I would recommend taking a look at something that we have on our website, italiantours.com, called Rome Tour Pass. This is a bundle that we usually recommend for people who have at least 2 full days to spend in Rome. And it includes everything that I've just mentioned. It's usually the best way to cover all these three activities. So again, if you have even if you have one day, but I would not recommend doing all of that in one day just because you will be overwhelmed, especially in this weather. So if you have at least 2 full days, definitely check it out. It is a fan favorite, so to speak. Regardless of which tour you decide to go for, know that our members get a discount on their first tour booking. The discount is $100 for Primo members, and I believe $50 for Viva. But I can double check that after the webinar. I know things have been changing with high season, but yeah, 100% for it's yeah, that for the first order, and on any subsequent order you would get 10% off. Yeah, as I mentioned, you can book all of these on italiatours.com. Again, if you have any questions, if you need some help, if you're not sure about the time slots, feel free to reach out. We're more than happy to answer any questions you might have. The only thing I would recommend is booking these experiences as far in advance as you can. So if you see anything that interests you, just feel free to reach out like now. Just because, again, we are in high season and these are incredibly popular destinations. So there's limited spots and they do sell out fairly quickly. So yeah, just don't wait until the very last second because we might not be able to accommodate the requests, which we don't like to do. So yeah, as soon as you know your dates, just make sure to lock them in. One last note on the tours is we often get questions on the dress code. I would say a general rule is if you'd like to visit the Vatican or any major church, or even minor church, if I'm being honest, but it's a particularly strict rule with big basilicas and duomos, you will need to wear clothes that cover your shoulders and your knees. Again, this is especially true for the Vatican or the main duomos, but you'll find that it's a rule in most religious spots and churches. It can also just be, a light cardigan. It doesn't need to be anything super heavy, especially again, it's really hot in Rome right now. So something light will do. Just make sure to have, again, shoulders and knees covered. That's really the only thing. Apart from that, I would just recommend something that's comfortable, especially the Vatican museums are pretty big, but at least you'll be covered. But the Colosseum, you might be under the sun. There's a lot of walking. There's a lot to see, so make sure to have comfortable shoes and possibly, yeah, clothes in general. That's really the only rule. The last thing that I think is important to mention is you won't be able to bring large backpacks into the Vatican and the Colosseum specifically. So if you plan to visit either of these attractions or both, just make sure to have, a smaller bag. They do not accept strollers as well. I know they can be rented, so if you do have a stroller or a big bag, just keep that in mind. And yeah, for the back, just make sure to have something smaller if you can. That's usually the fastest, and it's just the easiest option. So yeah, that's it for tours. And now back to Shelley for some local tips.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to wrap up the informational part of our webinar here with two of my favorite tips that I always give people who are coming to stay in Rome. The first one is you may not be aware of, but we have these water fountains all over the city. They're called Nazzoni. And Nazzoni because it means big noses, because the design of that spigot that you see in the photo. Those water fountains, as you can see from the photo, water runs out of them continuously. And so they're throughout the city, and you can use those to refill your water bottles, especially important right now because you want to stay hydrated. It's like Sophia has also mentioned, it's very hot right now in the city. So you're going to want to plan accordingly what hours of the day you're out. Try to avoid the hottest hours of the day. Um, and so, yeah, you can use a reusable bottle and not have to buy plastic bottles, get gouged with price gouging downtown where they're charging more for a simple water bottle. So I'm going to provide you with a link to a smartphone app. You probably won't be able to download it till you get over here, but it's a local app with the water utility and it has a map that lists where all these water fountains are. And so like wherever you're at, you can call it up on your phone and it will show you where the nearest one is so that you can refill. The water comes out ice cold. It comes from like a deep underground spring, so it's really nice. And a super hyper local tip if you want to feel like an actual local. You can't see it in this photo, but if you go up to the fountain and you plug it with your thumb, it creates a backflow of pressure, and there's a tiny little hole in the spigot. And so what happens is it will make a little arc of water, and you can bend down and drink from the fountain. So that's kind of cool. You'll see Romans drinking straight from the fountain. The only thing I always tell people is be careful because if you aren't paying attention and you plug it and it starts to spray, you could hit people, which actually probably they wouldn't mind right now because it's pretty hot, but you don't want to like spray water on people, then you want to get ready to drink out of it or make sure the coast is clear before you do that. Last but not least, I wonder if any of you have heard about this aperitivo tradition that we have over here. You may recognize that drink in the photo. It's called an Aperol Spritz, very iconic. Aperitivo time is around 6 or 6:30. It's a pre-dinner drink with little snacks. This one in the picture is from Meccanismo in Trastevere. I particularly like it there because they have a really abundant selection of snacks. It's like chef's choice. It's not tapas that you get to choose each one. They just kind of bring a board out. I think the price for this right now is like 13 euros per person, so pretty reasonable, especially considering it's in Trastevere, which is right downtown. You don't have to have alcohol in your drink. It's not about drinking alcohol. It's about gathering around with your friends before you go to dinner. So, and this could also be good if you're used to eating around 5 or 6, you're eating dinner, you might be hungry, you could have a little snack. There's local drinks that are non-alcoholic, like Crodino, for example, or you could just get a Coca-Cola, Sprite, whatever. These are available, like aperitivos available even at any coffee bar. Like in the evening when people maybe aren't drinking coffee, espresso at that time of day, you can go up to a bar and say you want to have an aperitivo. You could have Prosecco, or whatever you want to drink. And they might give you like something simpler than what you see here. They might give you like a little bowl of potato chips and some peanuts. It's something you might want to try, kind of fun local tradition. All right, so that wraps up the informational part of our webinar. And like I said, you're going to receive an email since you signed up to get this link. I will email you with links to the resources I talked about, a recap of the Q&A that we're about to have, and you will also get a recording of this webinar, which also is going to be uploaded publicly to our ItaliaPass YouTube channel. So you can find that there. So I know I talked fast trying to get through all the information. If you want to review something that you missed, or if you joined us late, you can look there to see the video. So now I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we're going to go to a live Q&A. And I see that several of you have already put questions in, which is amazing. We have 8 questions already. So if you go to the Q&A chat box, just type in your question and we are going to spend 15 minutes answering as many as we can. And don't worry though, because if we don't get to your question live, what I do is Zoom gives me a report with all the questions and I will answer them offline in the recap and you will get a link to that. So your question will be answered even if we run out of time. So do write it in just to have it on record for me so I can go back and answer it offline if I have to. Okay, here we go. So I will let you take this first one, Sophia, because it's about trains and she's our train expert.
Let's see. First question from Cheryl is we arrive at FCO at 10 a.m. and have ItaliRail tickets for 4 p.m. Is there a comfortable place to wait at the airport? Yeah, I believe I haven't been to FCO specifically in forever. But there's usually, areas where you can sit. There's food courts, quote unquote, like places you can get snacks and everything. Um, I can't think of a specific place at the airport that would be like comfortable. I'm not sure. Can you think of
Yeah,
something?
I will say Fiumicino is consistently rated as one of the top airports in Europe. So it is a very well resourced. It almost feels like a shopping mall, to be honest. So there's a lot of just seating and restaurants. In terms of a lounge, like we don't have a lounge at the airport. We have the lounge at Termini train station. So depending on how, because if you have Italia Rail tickets for 4 p.m., I'm imagining what you mean there is that your tickets leaving the airport leave the airport at 4 p.m. So I guess the Termini lounge that we have wouldn't necessarily come in handy in your case. But if it was a situation where you arrive at the airport and then you could go to Termini right away and wait at Termini, we have a lounge there. So that would also be an option for you. I'm not exactly sure of your itinerary, but if there was a way, if you were heading into Rome, that might be an option for you. That's the only thing I can think of. All right.
Definitely.
The
I
next,
can.
oh yeah, go for it. That would be helpful because I don't actually know the answer to this one.
Fair enough. Jimmy's asking, how much do you tip for a private transfer from the airport? So actually, the private transfers that we organized, you would not need to tip. There's the fee for the transfer itself, and it's kind of like an all-inclusive type of deal. I believe the sedan from FCO into Rome is $95, and that's again all-inclusive. And as I mentioned before, it's from the airport anywhere into Rome. I believe if you have a larger party, there's also another type of vehicle that might be slightly more expensive. But yeah, that's more or less the pricing.
So the next one is this is a great question, and I should add this into my kind of script for the slideshow because it says, "What if you have young children without cards?" So I'm assuming you're talking about what we talked about with public transport and the tap and go. So ATAC actually lets children up to age 10 ride for free. So if your children are 10 or are under 10, then that's not a problem. They don't need tickets. For anyone 10 and above, what you do is just tap one of your cards for them. And then if you get stopped, you just show the card. They don't need to actually have a card, obviously, but you're going to need to have a separate payment method for them. Or alternatively, just purchase a paper ticket. If you don't have enough cards to cover everyone in your family, which is totally understandable, then, buy a paper ticket. That's going to be your best bet there.
We talk a bit about coffee, Mina asks.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, I usually enjoy iced coffee. Is that possible to order? I would say yes for the most part, but it is different
Yeah,
than the
and you
one.
know what? Something I just had on Sunday because I was at a restaurant and I asked for a caffè freddo, which basically just translates to cold coffee. Which normally at a bar, what they do is they'll brew a bunch of espresso like in the morning. They'll pour it into like a glass bottle and keep it in a fridge. They put sugar in it. It's already pre-sweetened. And then when you ask for a caffè freddo, oh, by the way, important to note, if you say caffè, which translates literally to coffee, Italians will understand espresso. Sometimes Americans have made that mistake where they're like cafe and they think they're going to get like, a mug of coffee or whatever, but you will get an espresso. If you say un caffè, you can say caffè espresso, they'll understand, but generally espresso here we say just caffè. It just means espresso. If you want a mug of coffee, not mug, but like if you want a little cup of coffee like you would have in the States, for example, then you're going to call that a caffè americano, which you probably have heard in the States calling it Americano. But back to the iced coffee. So I was expecting to get an espresso poured into it usually comes in a little glass shot glass. And it's like espresso cold that's been in the fridge with sugar in it. But what they actually served is another option that you can try. It came out in it's kind of like the size of a whiskey glass. It's a glass, like kind of I don't know what they call them, but it's about this big, like a tumbler. And it's called a caffè shakerato. You know that, Sophie? Yeah, of course you know that.
Foamy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, so literally, they took the verb shake and they made it Italian by saying shakerato means shaken. And it's just cold coffee in like a cocktail shaker with ice. And they shake it and then they pour it. And it has like kind of foam on the top. But the thing about it is that it's like, it must be like three espressos in one. I mean,
It's
it's like half a glass. It's a
strong.
lot of.
It's
I
a
was
lot of
like,
coffee plus the sugar.
Yeah, it had
Boom, makes it
pre-sweetened
at night.
sugar. Yeah. So you have options. You have options. I sometimes they serve the cafe shakerato in a martini glass. Sometimes it's kind of fancy. Sometimes it's kind of fancy. But yeah,
And
Mina,
it is
you're
good.
gonna have a your best bet is just to ask the barista for a cafe freddo and just see what you get. But yeah, you're gonna want. Oh, and by the way, for breakfast, if you want a cappuccino and it's so hot in Rome right now, you can get a cappuccino freddo, which is what I recommend. And that's just gonna be in a glass. It's gonna be cold espresso with cold milk mixed. It's not foamy like a cappuccino, but it's better for this really hot summer. Oh, I'll take this one. My son has celiac disease. Do you have any restaurant recs for gluten-free dining? I do, actually, and I'm going to include those in my reference list for you. Italy is really, they're on point when it comes to celiac and gluten-free. They have a national association. There are symbols on food packages, and there are restaurants that are specifically gluten-free, which I have listed. And it's becoming more and more part of the culture to have like even places that will have like gluten-free pizza crust, stuff like that. They have snacks at the bar labeled gluten-free. So I think you'll be just fine. But I do have some restaurants because that's been asked in the past by other members.
Next, we have any tips for battling the Roman heat during this time of year? Um, I would say just generic advice for heat waves. So maybe try to avoid visiting or going around, walking a lot between, let's say, like 12 and 3 p.m. I would say those are usually the really, really hot moments. And there will be a lot of people, so it gets crowded, it can be overwhelming. So if you can, definitely avoid those time slots for visits and everything. Take that time maybe to explore restaurants and have a little spritz somewhere. Apart from that,
I mean,
bring
you're
lots of
gonna,
water.
I always, oh, sorry, go ahead. What were you saying?
Just drink lots of water. Make sure to
Yes.
always have a bottle.
Absolutely. Drink more water than you think you need because you're going to be sweating and not even realizing how much fluid you're losing. I always wear a hat. I mean, literally just a baseball cap. Like when I go walk my dogs, because the sun is so intense when there's no shade. And if you're on tours, for example, the guides are usually very, very like cognizant of how to make your group comfortable. They know the spots to go and put you in shade when they're explaining things. But if you're out walking around, you're going to want a hat, you're going to want all the protective gear, sunglasses, sunscreen
Sunscreen.
1000%. Tourists forget sunscreen. I was talking to my pharmacist the other day and she's like, Shelly, why do Americans always have the backs of their legs so red? And I was like, because they forget to put sunscreen on their legs when they're walking. Because if you're walking downtown for hours, you may not realize you're getting sun. It's like laying out at the beach, basically. So you're gonna want your sunscreen. What else? You know what I see a lot of people in Rome using nowadays are these handheld fans. Like even my friends are like going around with these
Yes.
battery-powered handheld fans. So like don't feel embarrassed. Like Romans are using these and like going around. I even in the supermarket saw this like mini like a battery powered like it's not AC but some sort of like cooling device. It was like for 15 euros you can just like turn it. So yeah, bring those. Totally not you're not going to look weird or anything. But my best recommendation is stay out of the heat. Do the siesta thing. Stay out of the heat from 10 to 2 basically. You don't want to be outdoors. If you can avoid it, go and have a nice long lunch, you know? Go although you might not expect the AC to be blasting like it does in the States. Roman AC is a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit warm.
Different.
Yeah, it's a little different. Because electricity's so expensive here, so they don't blast it necessarily. You want to take this
Um,
one? It's probably about the Vatican that they're asking.
sure. The question is, what about men? Do they need long pants as well? Yes. What I was saying about the dress code, it's unisex. Regardless of gender, shoulders and knees should always be covered for everybody.
All right, let's do the next three because we're running out of time. And like I said, don't worry if your question didn't get answered. I will answer it offline and send you the link to the recap. So I'll take this one. It says, I don't drink coffee. Can I get tea in Italy? Absolutely, you can. Sure, you can get both hot tea and cold tea, iced tea. So at the bar, tea is really easy to ask for. The word is te. Just say te. Te caldo, te freddo. Warm, like hot tea or cold tea.
The only note I would have is I have several friends that were surprised coming from the States specifically. A lot of Italian iced tea is often unsweetened. So there are some sweetened iced teas. Just
True.
make sure to ask for that
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah. And you can add sugar. So yeah.
Next one we have, do we need to carry our passports for tours? It would depend on the tour. The Colosseum, yes, definitely. They check IDs and they're very strict about it. I think the Vatican as well, they may ask for it, so just have it just in case. For other tours, it depends. It's usually listed if you book a tour with Italia Tours. We have a information thing that gets sent out once the reservation is placed. And if you do need to bring ID, it will be on that confirmation. There's just a little bit box where it says, "Oh, make sure to bring your passport." So,
Okay, I'll take this last one. Where should we stow our luggage before our hotel is available? So, if you're a member of Italia Pass, you can come over to Rome Termini and you can store your luggage at our lounge for free. So that's the best way for the members to do that. If you're not a member, there are plenty of baggage stow it like to stow your baggage drops near the train station throughout the city. I think one that's famous is called Bounce. You can look that up online. But yeah, you'll have no problem finding lockers to stow your bags. But of course, if you're a member, please do come see us because our lounge is really, really comfortable and you'll love having the host there and asking them questions. They make people feel really, really at home. So that would be my top recommendation. All right, so we have to sign off now, but again, I will finish answering these questions offline. Thank you so much everyone for joining us. We wish you the most amazing trip to Rome. I put the website of the community below my name here, so please come on over if you have any more questions. I'm always there to answer. And Sophia, like she said, is also available for email questions about anything having to do with travel, ItaliaPass, booking, tours, rail, hotels, etc. So thanks a lot for joining us and have a wonderful trip.
thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful time.
Bye.